Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 7 of Fix My Coaster Layout, a collaborative series between Brian Andrelczyk and I, where we take user-submitted coaster designs and offer feedback on areas like flow, realism, and anything else requested by the user. So in the last episode, which was just about 3 or 4 months ago now, we looked at Nighthawk 239's aerodynamic style mega looper called Arrowhead. And here we're looking at what Brian did for his kind of retake or redesign of the ride. Now, although Brian didn't keep the racing effect of the original design through the vertical loops, he did implement a really nice bit of dueling just at the foot of the large first drop here and the kind of turnaround here. It's also quite a bit less fussy than my redesign when it came to the timing and sequencing. He also has a far more realistic setup with running the 3 trains here, whereas mine relied on 4 trains to ensure that the synchronization was kind of maintained throughout. So yeah, it's a lot more realistic and less fussy at the same time. So aside from that, the coaster layout itself is pretty fantastic. I mean, I really love the big diagonal hill here into the half corkscrew, half loop. And yeah, so Brian actually spent quite a few hours on his Twitch channel doing this build, of which I believe his most recent video actually has all of that footage kind of compiled into one. So if you want to see how this was done kind of step by step, right from the redesign through to the actual scenery build, I'd recommend watching that, and I'll leave a link to that in the description below. So yeah, the custom support work is pretty incredible as well. Really love the colors on the station building, and the queue line setup through the Batwing is just fantastic as well. The decorating all around, just like the trees and shrubs, that's just really nicely done too. I particularly like this little diagonal section of path here that just runs next to the high-speed turn with the flower bed. I think that's really nicely done. Also love the entrance plaza. Yeah, there is a lot of custom scenery work here, which I don't really use myself, but when you see something like this, it really makes you realize just how nice it can look and why people kind of go for it. So yeah, this really is quite something special, and it's definitely quite an achievement. So anyway, with that done, I think it's about time we got stuck into the next submission for this series. So today's submission comes to us from the user Nicholas Argiros in what was actually our first RCT1 submission. What we have is a medium-sized wooden coaster in the scenario Dynamite Dunes, which is probably recognizable to most people. It's situated in a slightly awkward spot, just kind of at the top of the main dune here, right next alongside to a Dynamite Blaster. But a decent little layout here, which has actually some pretty good stats. Excitement of over 7, which is always pretty good. So if we just follow one of the trains along here, we do have this nice little section just before the first lift hill, which is never a bad thing. I'd like to kind of clean up the supports. The fact that you got the path directly under the lift hill kind of makes the supports a little bit awkward, so I would like to kind of fix that up just a little bit. Then we're into kind of a pre-drop turnaround into the first kind of big drop underneath the path here into a tunnel, which I think looks pretty cool. And we have a bit of a double up or a double drop moment, depending on which way you look at it. And then kind of a series of reasonably fast turns that kind of go in and out of the dune, and then kind of a small dive into an unbanked tight turn into the station. So yeah, a pretty cool little layout. Now some things that I'd like to change here include the banking of the kind of section just before the lift hill. I don't think it's really that necessary, and it does look a little bit awkward here with the 2 banked pieces, banked straight pieces. So yeah, I might tweak that just a little bit. The path under the lift hill, as I kind of touched on earlier, I want to fix that up. I think I also want to draw the length of this coaster out just a little bit. I feel like it has lots of wasted speed just towards the end here, and it's kind of over with pretty quickly. Yeah, it comes into the station quite fast as well. So yeah, I also don't mind the idea of a few tunnels, but yeah, just because it feels kind of rushed, I think we could just expand on it a little bit and draw it out a bit more. The ending, yeah, also has quite a fast unbanked turn, which it doesn't cause any G-force issues in this case. I mean, the maximum laterals are 2.44, but I still think it's kind of best practice to avoid that. So we'll put in a bit of a brake run at the end, just for a bit more realism, I think. So yeah, I think we can get started with the redesign now. Okay, so I think the first thing we'll work on is just this little section straight after the station platform, and just get rid of the bank turns here. So not a huge change, but I think getting rid of the bank turns just helps smoothen this section out a little bit. Now the next part we're going to work on is the section just after the lift hill here. So the lift hill we're actually going to keep as it is, and I think instead of moving the track layout, we'll keep that there and move the path just once I've finished with the redesign. And what I'm going to try and focus on is using the space kind of on top of the dune here, and making the most of that area. It is kind of an awkward space to use most of the time in this scenario. So yeah, I mean it's a good spot to maybe put a flat ride or two, but yeah, I think we'll try and make good use of this space with the coaster here. Okay, so I kind of want to try something like this, where we do a, not quite an airtime hill, but a reasonably fast hill into a kind of twisted turnaround, or a swoopy sort of turnaround. But it's getting back up to a height of 21 there from a start of 22, so I think we're going to have to kind of maybe take out one of these shallow, sections here, so we'll try and do that. Okay, so that's up to a height of 19, so I think that should make it pretty comfortably. This section here does look a little bit awkward, but I'm anticipating putting a bit of track kind of over the top of that section, so I think that will kind of cover that up nicely. So let's continue on. So this part of the design I really did like, the drop under the path and then the kind of double down or double up. So we're going to keep that pretty much as it is. So basically I just need to hook this section up, the start of the drop, to what I have here. So I think that looks a little bit funny, so we're just going to make the airtime hill even shorter. Yeah, I don't know, I just think I like the look of that a little bit better. So yeah, now with this part of the layout done, I think it's time to get stuck into this section over here. So yeah, we're going to kind of replace pretty much the rest of the track here. So I'll just get started by removing that. Okay, so what I think I'm going to do is introduce a few kind of swooping turns, maybe a diagonal section, and just kind of loop it around on itself, and then maybe bring it back down this hill, then across the face of Dynamite Blaster here, over the top of the station platform, and then I really want to try and do another kind of lap, I guess, of this part of the track. So yeah, let's see what I can come up with. Yeah, I think something like that should work pretty well. I did have to modify the terrain a little bit, but I'll come back and tidy that up a bit later on. So yeah, I think if we're over the top of the station, or pretty much here, so now I think we'll continue and build some track alongside the lift hill. Okay, so the intent here now is to not build a mid-course brake run exactly, but have kind of a slower section. And yeah, I mean, if this is a real coaster, I guess I could put some sort of trimming brake system here, but yeah, it's mostly just basically a mid-course brake run, I guess, albeit with a little bit of a curve. So yeah, we're going to bring it up to 16. It could be crawling by the time it gets up there, so yeah, we'll get it up to 16, and hopefully going back down to 15 gives it a little kick, and yeah, should be able to get through this section pretty comfortably. Now what I'd like to do here is basically bring it back under the track here, back behind the Sphinx monuments, and then I'm thinking we could actually do another drop alongside this this big one here under the path, so just kind of have a second one running alongside. So yeah, I think we'll do something like that. So the fact that we've got a little bit of track sticking out the side here means that I think it'll look a little funny if we just have kind of a somewhat of a long rectangular layout and then a little bit off the side here. So maybe what I'll do is actually have an element which looks not dissimilar to this, where we have a diagonal track here, then a sweeping turnaround back down. So yeah, we'll see how that looks. Okay, now this could be a little bit tricky. So we're basically bound by the track at 13 there, so I think we're going to have to stay pretty level at 11 right through here. Okay, so it's not the best looking there, but I think we can cover that up with some decorations later on. Okay, so I think this looks reasonable enough. We've just got a bit of got the drop coming out here and then into another drop which kind of tucks nicely in between this little section just after the station and into the lift hill. So we'll, I think that should just be a matter of bringing it back to the station platform now. So I think what we'll do is we'll do a couple little airtime hills into a swooping turn or two, into a turnaround into the final station, and I think we might have to do a little bit of underground work here. Okay, so I'm thinking I actually want only 6 cars per train for this coaster. So I think 7 looks a little bit too snaky on the track, so I think we can reduce the length of the station platform by a couple tiles. So we'll get started by putting in the brake run here. Okay, so that was a little awkward to finish off, but I think this gets the job done. So we can just bring this back around. And there we have it. So I think that looks pretty reasonable overall. It is a bit of an awkward space to deal with, but I think we've got a pretty prominent looking coaster here. It's definitely a lot bigger than the original layout, but I think what we'll do now is get stuck into some testing. Okay, so we got rid of the banking, but there's really no concerns there with lateral G's given how slow it's going. Alright, so let's see how we go. Decent amount of speed over the turnaround there. And yeah, it maintains its speed pretty well through the double up. Okay, it's travelling alright through there. I might get rid of the banking there, just to make it look a little more smooth. And this is the bit I was kind of concerned about, and yeah, I think that's maybe a little bit too slow. So we might come back and make some changes to that. Yeah, pretty happy with that speed through there. And this part's a little bit of a crawl as well. Yeah, that's way too slow. That's alright, a little bit slow, but not bad. And yeah, that finishes off with a pretty decent amount of speed, 28 km an hour as it enters the station. So yeah, not too bad overall, although I'll definitely need to make a few small tweaks. Okay, so I might actually need to make a quick change to this log flume here just to get it out of the way. Okay, so I think with those small tweaks, I think we should have a much better ride. So yeah, just got rid of the banking here because I don't think the speed through that section really warranted it. And instead of having the little kind of hump up to 16 and then back down, I just kind of leveled it out and made it somewhat of a mid-course brake run. Of course, it's not actually. It doesn't have block brakes or anything, but it's more just for aesthetics. I think I set the brake speeds to 86 kilometers an hour, so it won't actually slow down the trains at all. But aside from that, also just lowered the average height of the section here, so hopefully it travels through here with a bit more speed. It was a kind of a crawl before. Took this section kind of down and then up, and yeah, just kind of reconnected this section as well. And the last thing I did was actually, instead of having tight turns in this section before the lift hill, just put 2 medium turns connecting it. So I think that looks a little bit more smoother overall. So what we'll do now is just test this again and make sure everything's good. Okay, so into the new kind of brake run section. Yeah, I think that's a lot more smooth, rather than having it crawl over that little hump at the end at about 10 km an hour. And now going through the revamped section here. It's still a little slow, but I think it's way more acceptable than before. Yeah, I'm actually a lot happier with that. And with guests in the trains, that'll go through that section even faster. So I think as long as we have good stats, we should be onto our final layout just here. Okay, so the stats are actually really good. The excitement rating is nice and high. Intensity's gone up even higher than before, but it's still within kind of reasonable levels. Lateral G's are all good. So yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with this layout overall. So now what we'll do is get stuck into a little bit of scenery and decorating, and of course quite a bit of landscaping just to tidy up all these messy looking edges. So we'll get stuck into that now. Okay, so I think we can just about leave it there. So yeah, just did a little bit of decorating, lots of landscaping actually, which was a bit of a pain just to tidy up all the rough looking edges around the place, but yeah, just tidied that up, added in a few little viewing areas, made a few changes to the station and the entrance and exit lines, just a few shrubs here and there, nothing too much because it is Dynamite Dunes after all. I did end up spending quite a bit of money on scenery and landscaping in the end, but given that the scenario isn't super challenging, it's not entirely impractical to spend that kind of money on landscaping. So yeah, that wasn't too much of a concern. So that's going to be just about it for the video. Thank you very much for watching. Also, big thanks to Nicholas Argiros for sending in this design. Make sure to go over and check out Brian's redesign as well. Really looking forward to seeing what he can come up with for this one. If you'd like to get involved in the series, you can send through a coaster layout or any other ride for that matter, either in the track or park format, including the new .park format, to fixmycoasterlayout@gmail.com. Please include a couple background details on the ride, as well as your desired username. I know it took us a while to get this next video in the series out, but Brian and I have been having pretty hectic summers overall. But having said that, we will get around to all the submissions eventually, and the next one should not be too far away. Thanks again all for watching, and hopefully see you in the next video. Cheers, bye.